The bearish force of Bitcoin continues to lead the short term. Remember that Bitcoin comes from a really aggressive, impulsive movement that wanted to go after the $78,000, a level, a macro structure that belongs to an uptrend channel that, as you can see, was not contacted. This invites us to think that we are facing buyer weakness, and it is for that reason that we have been monitoring the price. Initially in Solana because it looked too clear. If you look at Bitcoin, we have been working on a bullish wedge. A bullish wedge that, as I was telling you, has produced for us, or rather, has generated a gap and then been pierced with strong aggressiveness. So, how are we monitoring the price? Well, look, we have identified a very valid structure, and just recently, it was so well identified that the price went to touch it to continue with its bearish path. Okay, and if you are wondering what all this means, we will have it a bit clearer if we work on a cross-analysis and put Ethereum's chart on the table. Here we are going to continue with the last technical analysis we shared with you. Here we have been working on a very aggressive wedge in Ethereum, and this time Ethereum did come to find a macro structure. Remember that from Crypto Insight we have only 1 or 2 lines on the chart, and those are the ones that really work. Here we are seeing how they have come to impact with great aggressiveness to subsequently pierce the structure with great aggressiveness. It was then when we came to look for that guideline that contemplates absolutely everything, because in the end we are valuing a macro compression against a relevant structure, and look at what has happened. This Monday night, a strong and aggressive breakout, which in its nature is, at the very least, to come and test to the structure they have pierced and which we give, frankly, great importance. And look, if I've been talking to you about Solana all this time, now I'm sharing its chart with you in its 4-hour time frame. And here we are working on that bullish wedge. Remember, this bullish wedge was doing a luxury indicator job for us, being honest, since we were expecting, we didn't know when, but at some point this bullish wedge was going to tend to be pierced with great aggressiveness, as we are seeing. As long as Solana goes up, cryptocurrencies, from the perspective of a cross-technical analysis, can continue to rise, but when Solana's wedge breaks aggressively to the downside, perhaps it will be time to prioritize shorts in the market. That's why we are monitoring this wedge, because at some point, imagine they do it soon and making a strong bearish impulse. Here, a lot of caution because bearish stretches could come in the crypto ecosystem. Don't use this as a prediction, rather as a concept of an indicator, because if this keeps going up, you can keep doing it and we will keep working on this wedge until it tells us when it's time to start looking down. As you have seen, it was smart to be looking for this breakout because honestly, we know how smart money moves financial markets. And now, why do we give so much importance to this guideline? I'm presenting it to you right now. When smart money breaks its wedges with strong aggressiveness, they usually seek the impulsive movement to the anchoring zone they are now working on. That's why for the immediate term for scalping it makes sense. Despite having already moved down a lot, why don't we go look for the guideline? Although be careful, we could have anchored it differently. And now, we would be at the key point. Only time will tell. But what I'm here to share with you is to explain why, after this strong bearish impulse, the price has decided to be so aggressive. Why has it risen so much? That's the question. Well, frankly and being honest, I didn't expect such a big correction. I expected a somewhat smaller correction to make the bearish move we are seeing that has already taken place. Well, look, if we go to a lower time frame, let's go to 15 minutes. Here, what are we going to notice? Well, here we have a strong bearish impulse, and here we have a complex corrective pattern that starts with a W with a poor I. Therefore, we are going to look for an aggressive Z in which, from Crypto Insight, we were speculating why not that said Z would have its end of excursion here. But hey, you know what happens when one, and it's a way of speaking, tries to turn the market around? Well, finally, that Z extended as much as it wanted to a relevant zone. And if you wonder how we have identified this relevant zone, well, look, we have drawn a volume profile to this whole area. And look where the point of control is. The level of highest transactional volume around $192. That's why if we take all this strong bearish impulse, we realize that the correction came to look for liquidity on the POC of this whole range. And that's where the price has reacted. It makes all the sense in the world. And if you now pay a little more attention and zoom in, we will notice how they have worked a wedge on us. A wedge that breaks, that works its own guideline. That in the end, this has been about distribution. A distribution that they have broken and confirmed, that they have generated a strong bearish bearish impulse and that they are following down. But beware, we already know that many times after the price generates a bearish impulse, it follows the price with a channel, followed by a range looking for a tricky bearish climactic action. So, this is when we must ask ourselves if we are facing such an event. Are we perhaps facing a trap? We will try to answer this very interesting question, but first, welcome to Crypto Insight, your ethical and moral channel for cryptocurrency technical analysis. Here, we really know what we're talking about. We conduct advanced technical analysis that has been developed for over 12 years. We upload videos several times a week. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, let me know and leave a comment with your opinion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss the next opportunity. And going back to the Ethereum chart with the sole purpose of assessing whether we are facing a trap or the start of a bearish continuation, we have come to the Ethereum chart in its 1 hour time frame. Well, just remember that we have anchored that structure as relevant, in my opinion. Very well anchored, it breaks. Makes us a tester now. What are we going to assess? We are going to assess a compression against its structure. And do you know how we are going to do it? In the advanced order flow chart, which allows us to see inside the candles to assess how the price has been auctioned during the course of the last movements explained. Well, let's step back a bit, just to give you some context. Note that we are looking at the same chart. We have just broken with strong aggressiveness. We have come to make a test, and we are assessing this compression to know if this will take us downwards. Or instead, we are facing a market trap that will take us at least for the short and immediate term upwards, all right? Let's zoom in a bit. Do you know what I want to focus on? I want to focus on what has been happening in this whole area, and obviously what is happening here. Let's go for it. We zoom in, we zoom, and look at how the information we need is appearing. So, observe, as the price has been rising, look at this cluster, a cluster of red color, where here it is revealed how the beat has been predominating at the extreme of the macro bullish candle, giving us to understand that they were already slowing down the price. But hey, look at how the price continues to rise and how in these candles, apparently green if we look inside, we see how the red is revealing itself, information that the average retail investor lacks. While the price goes up, what we are seeing is a deceleration, while at the same time, we observe that selling has been taking place. All right, this explains everything. And then, when we attack the test zone again, we see ask appear, a buying attempt that frankly ended up frustrated. So, we can say that the smart money, the major institutions in this zone, were selling it like there's no tomorrow, and that retail investors tried to buy in this zone, but had no success whatsoever. All of this signals, of course, that the price had to go down. This information is interesting and qualitative, as it can explain what's happening now and what could happen next. So, let's move a bit to the right. Remember, we're highly interested in seeing what's happening now. The price has come to identify its structure to step aside and then attempt its breakout. At the moment, we have some interesting ingredients because the delta here below, my friend, is revealing that in this entire zone, for some reason, there was an attempt to buy, but we see that the repercussion is completely opposite. All right, what else catches our attention? Well, that in the structural zone of the creek, there's selling pressure pushing the price, which it's achieving. So it will be crucial to see how these clusters respond to a potential attack and confirm if this selling defends its position to see if the idea of further downward movement persists or not. And if we switch to the 15-minute time frame on Ethereum, we had already been observing that this bearish continuation could proceed, as we were looking at this level as relevant, which we expected the price to attack to confirm a bearish continuation. What Ethereum is telling us is that if we can create a future contact here, it doesn't necessarily have to pierce it, not necessarily. And from here, specifically from here, we can look for a long and hey, at least to the crick. But ideally, they should come here to validate us, and here we will see. And here we will see if they want to bring down the market as we are analyzing. Let's look at the BNB chart since, as you know, we were looking for buying opportunities to join this tremendous bullish party. At one point, we were looking for those buys that could have given us opportunities for intraday trading that didn't quite flourish but could have turned out well. Similarly, we started speculating with this guideline, with this macro bearish channel where we began looking for entries at the lower ends. Then, to start speculating, you know how we like to speculate, which is what we do. Here we identified a click to see if we were in an accumulation process. Right here again. We can see that we had a micro bullish accumulation and we were observing this defense zone, and look, Kevin has responded to the price in BGB, the Bitget token. Alright, if I bring up the Bitget token now, it's for the following reason, because it's giving us interesting information that aligns well with everything happening in the crypto ecosystem. So, take a look at the following. We've been working on a bearish impulse within this bullish accumulation process where we see a W, a poor I, and now we've gone to look for an extreme Z that has already broken its wedge, and now, at the same time, see how they're validating the creek. They are conducting a test. And here, Crypto Insight members are already asking themselves questions that they know how to answer. Look, do you know what Crypto Insight members are asking themselves now? What they are wondering is, hey, is this a trap? Or on the contrary, is it validation to continue upwards? It's the question that, frankly, needs to be asked. And hey, if we knew the answer, we could confidently say that we practice some sort of sorcery. So, what should we evaluate? Well, if we switch to a smaller time frame, this will start to sound familiar. For other assets, we come from a bearish impulse, which we are monitoring as a channel, followed by a range. Let's see if the bearish climactic action comes, and here we will have to assess if the price is then able to recover, to work the flat and go, which would lead to a large projection as they would have gained momentum to come and break the guideline of the macro bearish channel, which could suggest that we can be very positive. As you can see, we are in very interesting contexts. But as I said, we are not here to rub the crystal ball, and what we need to assess is if they decide to make a bearish climactic action at some point, and it tests us and doesn't recover, my friends, we'll have to treat all of this as a trap, keeping in mind that we're coming from a complex corrective pattern that has ended in a deep Z, where we can have its guideline, and that in itself. All of this is a distribution. Therefore, a breakdown with structural confirmation could be a flat pattern that subsequently pushes the price down. We must be wise. See what the price is doing to you and act accordingly. Don't pretend to be a fortune teller or a miracle worker. All right, how are you going to follow up on all these ideas on the Bitcoin chart? As I said, we have a gap, the breakout of the wedge, and the price is being followed in a clearly bearish direction. Obviously, we're talking about the immediate and short term here because if we take a perspective on the chart, look at where we're coming from, what we're here to do. No one should consider themselves the smartest in the room, in the school, to know when the market will turn around. Another thing entirely is to zoom in as we're doing and assess the short-term context. So, as long as the price respects this structure, we'll continue to be bearish. Let's see what they do to us, how. But honestly, it makes sense that we might see a bearish climactic action seeking. At the very least, some cleansing. I think you're already seeing it. And here, we'll see if it's a trap or what to fully recover, confirm, and then we'll be talking. But what you should pay attention to is this structure. Look, with Ethereum, everything is much more immediate. Remember that we've just broken a macro structure, we break and validate. We've seen this with order flow. Basically, Ethereum will allow you to take action much more immediately as we have the guideline that has just been broken. So hey, if this is a trap, we'll know soon. We'll simply recover, and during the test, opportunities will arise to look for those bullish stretches. And here, at another time, we'll have to deal with the structure. But it seems sensible to me to consider that we've just conducted a test that is compressing. Be careful because bearish continuations could come. And all of this, in my opinion, will be decided in the next few hours. All right, what does Solana tell us? Solana tells us that perhaps it's not the end of the world. I mean, even though we see a slight dip in cryptos, whether it's Ethereum, Bitcoin, everything I'm explaining to you, what Solana tells us is that there is room for a drop and it's no big deal. That's what Solana tells us because here, hey, even if they trap us, the price continues to do its thing. We'll see. Basically, Solana tells us not to go crazy thinking or validating upcoming breakouts that make us think that crypto prices in general may continue to fall, but rather they invite us to be cautious. Likewise, is Bitcoin perhaps setting up the classic trap? We'll find out very soon, and based on that knowledge, we can take trading positions in one direction or the other. Concepts that we'll specify and delve into much more detail in the live sessions we do in Crypto Insight. I wish you good luck with your trading and see you next time. Bye for now.